I'm a bit embarrassed to admit this, but I really haven't given Rive a proper chance until recently because of my good friend Frederic, who's like obsessed with Rive. He calls it his third love after Flash and After Effects. Frederic is an amazing motion designer. In fact, he has his own motion design shop called Pencil Park, and it's located in Paris. And he also develops a lot of very useful tools that many of you know. One of my favorites, definitely Reach, check it out. We actually hopped on a Zoom call where Frederic properly introduced me to Rive, and you can see it as well. So here's Frederic showing me the ropes.
This is not motion design, this is a game. But this game was made in 2 days, fully built in Rive. So it's a really simple game. You have to play cards and to draw 3 matching cards. So let's have some luck. Yes. And you have different effects. That's something I made for Halloween. So here you have vectors elements. Here on a hover, you have a zoom. You can turn light.
It's interactive, right? It's interactive.
Yeah, fully interactive. But I want to say that the cool part of Rive, of course, but that's not the part that I want to emphasize today. I want to show you that the UI and the workflow are really close to what After Effects proposes, and that is not mandatory to know how to code at all to create something interactive and to publish a video. You can create videos to broadcast directly, or you can create UIs, you can create video games. You have different approaches. So this is the UI. You have 2 parts, the design part and the animate part. My main artboard. So I will delete it and you will understand how it works. Here you will create an artboard. For example, this dimension, I will create an artboard like I would create a comp in After Effects. Mm-hmm. In this artboard, I want to add, for example, a raster's image, a JPEG, for example. I can add directly a picture from my laptop or my computer, but I already uploaded. I have an image. What can I do? I want to add a lower third here, and that's why I have different lower thirds. I can just pick one, copy, go to Rive, paste, and it's uploading an SVG. And this SVG is here. I will rename it lower third, and I can create an artboard with it. So let's create this artboard. So it's a big artboard for a lower third, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I will just use the dimension here to have a better view of what I'm doing. And now that I have this lower third, I can change the different colors here. Of course, I can use gradient, linear, radial, etc., to change appearance of my lower third. But I'm lazy, so I won't do that. I will directly use the set that I have here. So I will copy and I will pass. So here you have the pasted elements, so lower.
I like how you can easily copy and paste. That's really cool.
So I will select my artboard. I will just drag and drop all my lower thirds. So now that I have my lower thirds, I have, the hierarchy here. So I have the different elements and I want to ungroup them. So I will ungroup these elements. I will align immediately the lower thirds here. You have the anchor point, which is here. And for example, using the right shortcut, which is Y, you can here put the anchor point, for example, here for a rotation from here. It's not working then because I didn't define. So I will define it. And then you can put the anchor point where you want. Now I have all my different colors, it's a group. I won't group the different layers. I will use a feature, which is a solo. So a solo is a feature that you will have inside your artboard. So I click on solo. I have my solo here. I will take my layers, put them in the solo. And
like a null layer? Is that what it is?
More than that. If you click on the different radio button, you can select a layer that you want. But you can imagine that a layer can be an animation, for example, here instead of shape. For example, just in this one, we will add some text. So what will happen here, it's if I'm on this solo, I will have this, but sorry, I will put this here and in front of my layers. The hierarchy is from the top to the bottom, but there are options, if you don't want to follow exactly this rule. So you have here Sergey, but here it disappears, of course, because it's not embedded in this part. Now that I have this artboard, a secondary artboard. I will put the opacity to 0. So I have something transparent here. And I want to add my solo in my main artboard. So I will use the shortcut, which is N for nested, and I will add my lower third here. Nice. And what will happen here is that if I change something here, it will automatically be changed here. You can compare this in After Effects to a nested comp. Now, what we're going to do, it's not to add interactivity. It's to explore the animation. We are in the Animate UI. Here you have a node. I will just delete that because it's not interesting at all. I will start by the first animation, and this animation will be the slide. I will select a duration. It's like a command key on After Effects when you want to edit some duration or things like that. Here you have directly the shortcut. You can select FPS, the playback speed of the animation itself, the duration, and the current CTI. I will add the keys that I need. And let's say that the keys that I need here is the X position. So first, I will add my X position of my lower third nested artboard. Then I will go later, for example, here. So it didn't change anything because I didn't change it. Okay, let's say here. And I can drag or play with the X value directly here. I will automatically have a key is here. And as you can see, you have the motion. The great part is on your right. Here, that's a linear movement, right? And you can use
easing, right?
And directly the elastic bounce effect. And it's not finished because you will have the ease out, ease in and out, amplitude and frequency. So let's say that I want an ease and out, and I will play slightly here. So you will see that it's going to be a little bit odd, but that's cool. And at the end of the timeline, you have this extra time. Once again, imagine that you are in After Effects. What you want to do? You want to type N and to reduce the work area. Here, you will right click and set the work area here. And that's it. You have your bounce. Let's say that you want to have the loop in your animation. Then you will have your loop and you will have the ping pong. Now that we have this, how can we change the color? We want to display the color related to something, to an event or to a click or something like that. So let's start with something easy. An easy approach would be to use here in the lower third a logic. This logic would want to be that I'm listening this. When I listen to this, I'm changing this. Okay, so it won't be straightforward, but I will show you how you can achieve this kind of thing. First, I will go back here, my solo and my state machine here. Okay, so this is the first color. I will use my first color and I will duplicate my layer and using, so it's not really practical. I will rename this kind of thing. Okay, I have my different colors. So here in my solo, I had a drop down box. So orange on the second timeline. This is a timeline, okay? A timeline is a state. That's why Rive proposed a state machine. And this state machine is here to launch different states. So you can consider that this state machine can listen to and launch different timelines or events, trigger different things. So let's have this color orange. And sometimes you can imagine that it's tedious, but it's not, because you just select the right color, yellow, then you have the Bordeaux, then you will have the purple, and why not here green? And I guess that it will be the blue. I'm supposed to rename here my different colors, but I don't want to make a full tutorial. I will just stack my different timelines. So when I double click, I'm in a timeline. Okay. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, it's a bright timeline here. Okay. And now I need to connect to what we can consider is an output, which is the state, the timeline. So I will start to create, for example, a listener. So I will create, for example, this rectangle. on the surface. In Flash, we call that a hitbox. For those who are gamers, who are developing games or things like that, I know that you are familiar with this term. So I will turn off the opacity of my hitbox. What will I do with my hitbox is to listen to it. As you can see, I can listen to it. And now that's the magic. You can select if you want to over, enter, exit, have the pointer down or up, the pointer moving above the target, or a click. Let's use a click. And I need an input because when I will click on this, I will trigger an input, and this input will help me to launch the right timeline. And the timelines are the colors. So let's add here, for example, trigger. This trigger will be change. What will happen? Well, when I click my target, I will set change. I will fire change. And if I fire change, what will happen? You will see. I will enter from when you start your animation, you are on entry. And I want to go to color. If I play, I will immediately go to color, which is not really interesting because I can't go elsewhere. But here, I will add my different keys, my different arrows. What will happen when I will click? I will directly arrive here because I don't have any kind of condition. So I'm going through everything. I'm landing here, which is not really interesting. So what I can do, and I will show you a trick, is to select all the conditions here and to say here, the condition is to go farther if the input is changed. So now when I play, when I listen to the change, when I'm listening to the change, I have one after another, my different layers from the solo. But here I'm stuck. So what I need to do in my logic, I hope that everyone or you on your side already guessed, I will link my last step to the first one saying continue. If I change, just redo. So now we can test it and you will see that if I click on change, I can change. How is it useful for a motion designer? I will show you. Here, I have my main animation. When you enter in the animation, you have immediately the timeline where you have your animation here in the work area. So when I play Shunk, I have the name Sergey of my tennis woman. What I'm going to do is to say, okay, we can add different events when I have another picture to launch the right lower third. What I want to do is to change this from here. So let's imagine that we have a magic button. Okay, I will keep it in gray just to show that it's a placeholder and that I don't care about it. I will listen to it. Okay. And it will be a click. It will be also a click. The input, I don't have any input here. So my input need to come from there. So I will use this input. To use this input in After Effects, when you are using essential properties or when you are using nested comp, etc., you want to expose what the layer when you want to interact from the parent. So I will export to parent artboard. Now my nested artboard appears here because it has an input which is exposed. Change is exposed. What does it mean? It means that the ellipse can now, on a click, interact with change. So I have my animation. I click. And I can change everything. It's not mandatory to create a button and to click. You can use other stuff. You can use other features like events, like different things. But what is interesting is that you can interact from a nested comp and you can have as many nested comps as you want. When I say nested comp, I mean nested artboards. So now, and to finish this little presentation of the basics of basics, I will show you something because you were talking about, the parents, the null, for example, which are really, really important for motion designers nowadays. In Rive, you will use the constraints. Here, your lower third can have a constraint of transformation, distance, translation, scale, rotation, IK and FK for those who are used to the animation.
Character animation.
Yes, exactly. The follow path. Okay, so that's something that a lot of animators know from After Effects. And now you have scroll, which is for the layouts. So it's more UI oriented. So let's use, for example, the translation. Okay, and it's clear enough. You have the strengths of the translation, the target, the space, from comp to comp, world, local. That's something that you are familiar with. And I will just copy the X value, the X axis from my Lawathet. Where is my constraint? No, sorry, I will redo. I will use my constraint here of transform, and I will use as target Lawathet, and immediately you have this, which follows. I need to open my path and to drag where I want to drag this element, okay? Just to show you how you can use this kind of thing for motion design purposes. At the same time, you can imagine that you try to click, for the interactive part. So if I have now in my transformation a strength less important, it will be, as you can see, not following exactly totally the length of the path of the Lawathet. So you can imagine that you can create effectors. From now on, you have the possibility to have something really interactive for the user, but also something interactive from each item to other items. So a layer can be an animation can have an influence on another animation by the proximity, by the position, by things like that. And if you add the different kind of inputs, numbers, Boolean, triggers, the listeners, the constraints, the possibility to have a different kind of a layout, and we didn't see that, but the design itself, because you can design fully in Rive. I mean, you can edit directly your vertices. For example, here, I will show you that you can edit all your vertices and animate these transformations. I let you guess how interesting. I hope that you find this interesting, but how interesting this tool can be for a motion designer and also a developer, because a developer would want to have the logic here and here, because you can interact from the outside of the file, for example, on a web page or in a video game, to change the input. For example, with a controller on my video game, I can immediately impact and influence this input. In a nutshell, I've been really fast in my presentation, but I hope that you can imagine the full potential. If I may, I will show you something that I've made, which is an interactive graphic novel. It was a few months ago, and you have the sound design, you have the music, and interactivity. And this effect is just a nested artboard. This nested artboard is Blick. As you can see, there is just an effect with a timeline, and you can see the effect here. And I just needed to nest the artboards in the main artboard to have this effect, which is cool. That's really interesting. And then in the rhythm that I want, I used vectors and rasterized images and texts. Different elements. So okay. Sorry. I needed it. Sorry for the violence. It's a noir roman. So this is a long graphic novel, but it's also interactive. And that's when I understood that it was really, really interesting for me.
Is there a way too for you to render it out as a video? Or is
I forgot to show you how to render. I will share my screen again. Here, I can export for runtime, which means to use it in production for backup. And I can also add to queue, to run the queue. Is it familiar?
Yes.
We can't deep dive in this software in 5 minutes, which is a good thing because you can't cover After Effects in 3 hours. So what I want to say is just that it's really permissive first. It's really intuitive for motion designers because newcomers may be afraid by the UI to know that you can here design, here animate, there you will have, the different keyframes.
So it's very loose. I like that.
I wanted to share last thing with you because you asked me what we can do for our customers. So that's the web version because it was for a booth. So here it's for healthcare industry, and you have different questions. You have a timer, and it's a quiz. So you need basically to answer. Then you have a feedback, a penalty or a bonus if you answering properly. Okay, so you can see that we have animations. So here
that was all created in Rive, right?
Yeah, fully in Rive except all the texts. By text, I mean the question, the answers ID to know which answer is a good one. This is using, JavaScript input.
Hey, thank you so much for the introduction. I've learned a lot, and I can definitely see why you're excited about it.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you for listening to my awful English.
Dude,
but it was
better than me, man.
But it was really great. When you are fully passionate by a topic, you want to share it with someone else.